What's up, college football fans, and welcome to an episode of Believe in the Big Ten, brought to you by FanDuel. I guess we'll call it the inaugural episode, Grant. I am Brandon Brown. You are looking at Grant Perry, former Michigan wide receiver. And if you've caught us in the past, Grant and I have thrown a handful of episodes together covering Michigan, and now we're super, super excited to jump into a bigger pool and talk the entire Big Ten. We're just weeks away from the college football kicking off at this point, and I could not be more excited to branch out a little bit. I mean, Grant and I both love all things college football. Yes, he's obviously got his Michigan ties. I've been covering the Wolverines for a long time, but we're both really excited to expand a little bit and talk the Big Ten. So, Grant, today our assignment was simple. We're like I said, a couple weeks away from football kicking off. Week 0 is in literally, 17 days, I think, like just over 2 weeks away from college football officially returning. And we are going to be ranking our top 5 quarterbacks in the Big Ten. And before we get into the specifics of who we have where, I'm going to be honest, I don't really see like a killer in this whole group. I think there's some good players. I think there's a handful of guys who could do really well in 2025, but in my humble opinion, I don't think there is like a runaway guy that's just head and shoulders better than everybody else. And once you get past the first couple, we said this before we started recording, it's a little muddy. I feel like you and I have not discussed this ahead of time, and we haven't gone 1 through 18 together. I don't even know where we would have people. I feel like you could take a big group of them and kind of mix them up and you get a pretty similar outcome. So I'm excited to jump into this top 5 ranking here.
Yeah. Like you said, I mean, there's no real, obviously people want to say Drew Aller, but like, there's not a lot of difference between Drew Aller, like, and then the next couple guys, I don't want to give the list away, but like, I think we're in for a good season of quarterback-driven football in the Big Ten, SEC as well, but in the Big Ten as well. A lot of unknown, but a lot of guys coming back as well. I'm excited for it, man. I can't wait. I think there's a plethora of quarterbacks that have established roles that are going to do well with their system, and I think there's some guys too at the bottom that we're not probably going to talk about today that could see themselves in this top 5, in this top 6, right? That maybe aren't being regarded right now. And then also there's also the one thing that you got to keep in mind too when you watch through a season is who made the list that wasn't even on the list, right? Who's the backup? Who had that story during the season, right? Who came in and really took over a program and led them. So things to keep in mind, but excited to get into it, man.
And there's a couple battles going on. There are a few programs who don't have a set guy. Most do, and most probably have an idea of who it might be. But even at Ohio State, number 2 in the country, they're saying there's a battle there. I mean, like, who knows what it'll end up looking like. But without further ado, let's get into our top 5. We're starting at number 5. Again, Grant and I have not discussed this with each other. I'm curious to see how similar or how different our list is. Grant, why don't you do the honors and give us your number 5 quarterback in the Big Ten?
Well, that's very kind of you, Brandon. I appreciate that. So with number 5, I'm going to, and this is more of a projection, less data to go off of, but a very high ceiling, a good system he's in. I'm going to go out west to Seattle. Jed Fish and the Huskies, they got a guy that's promising in Damon Williams. And I was listening to Crane and Company, and I love what they said. They said that he's got the demon in part of the first name of his name, and then that D is silent. Like he is a beast. And in those last 2 starts, he played in all 15 games, but his last 2 games he started versus Oregon and Louisville being in the bowl game. And I mean, dude, if you look at these stats, at PFF had him at 80 overall grade, 82, 87 versus Michigan. But Oregon, 85% completion percentage on 20 throws, 81 versus Louisville on 32 throws. And in those 2 games, combined for 5 touchdowns to 1 interception. So, I think there's a really high ceiling for Damon. Excited to see what he does. He could be a guy that could really hurt you with his legs and also his arm.
Phenomenal athlete, lightning in a bottle, can take a zone read 80. He's that kind of athlete. I had him at number 6, so I'm not far off. Like you said, a small sample size. He hasn't been the guy yet, and now that he is, I think that'll be very interesting. My number 5, a little bit polarizing. I get a little sick of the Patrick Mahomes stuff, but I have Dylan Raiola at Nebraska at number 5. Coming back for his second season, 6'3", 230. He's got to clean up the interceptions. He only had 13 touchdowns to 11 picks as a true freshman. Nebraska, they're up, they're down, they're, whatever the hell happened with Scott Frost. And now they got Matt Rule. I'm a pretty big Matt Rule fan. I think he builds quarterback friendly systems. He's done it in the past. I think he's a good program builder. I think he will put Raiola in a position to succeed. But this is another one where, like, I will sound like a broken record for a lot of these guys, and you hinted at it as well. There are so many guys on this list, and I'm talking all the way from the top to the bottom, where, like, I could see the slider being huge. Like, they could be pretty bad, or they could blow it up. I mean, there's a big range of what this could look like for a lot of these guys, and I think Raiola fits into that. I've got him at number 5.
That's awesome. That's funny too, because I have Raiola at 6 actually. So we
have a flip-flop there. Okay.
And it's interesting. It's interesting to take a look too. I've been hearing a lot about the rule of 3 with Matt Rule, right? In Temple, 3rd year, I think 10 or 11 wins. Year 3 at Baylor, 10 or 11 wins. And now he's going into year 3 in Nebraska. And there's a lot of hype around that year, the 3rd year under Matt Rule. So if things stay consistent, I think Raiola is in for a good year.
So number 4, Grant, who did you put at your number 4 spot?
So number 4. Okay. So number 4, he had a little bit of a dicey offseason. He made some headlines with where he went, where he came from. I'm going to go with Nico Amaliabia. And I might have said that too fast. Amaliabia. How do you help me out here?
I go Iamaliava.
That's it. Iamaliabia. I just had to hear it one more time. So Nico, I'm going with Nico.
We can say Nico. That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, we get it now. So Nico, I'm not going to say that he's going to take his team to the playoff at UCLA. The supporting cast is definitely not what it was at Tennessee. But for a freshman to go into the SEC and to play good ball, I mean, turnover-worthy plays for Nico was 2.5. I mean, that's 3rd or 2nd on this list out of the Big Ten guys on the top 5. So only 11 or so plays were really turnover worthy for Nico. Now, he did have some trouble throwing the ball downfield, and, you get into the playoff and you really don't do anything versus Ohio State. You take that into consideration, but with his 6'6" frame, him finding a place out west, I think he's going to see a little bit of not easier competition, but he's going to have a little bit of an easier road to put up some better stats. And he could quietly kind of go through the night out in UCLA, and it may be week 4, week 5 before we really start bringing them up. But if they're 4-1, 4-0 by the time we start talking about them, I think if you're trying to buy the Nico stock, it's too late then. So I'm big on Nico. I know there was some scrutiny around his moving and how he handled that, but I mean, if we're looking at potential and what he could become, what he is with the legs, the arm, the frame, I'm going to go with Nico at 4. And I'd say, like, if you're a Big Ten team and you need a quarterback, you're not taking Nico. Like, I mean, I think you're lying if you say you don't.
I agree. We may come back to him soon. But at my number 4, I have a kid who did kind of the opposite. He goes from the West Coast over to the eastern part of the country. I have one, Fernando Mendoza from Indiana. This is a name a lot of Big Ten people probably don't know about. He played out at Cal, but another, I mean, this is a laboratory looking quarterback, 6'5", 225, threw for 3,000 yards, only 16 touchdowns, but only 6 picks. Wasn't real sloppy or loose with the ball. I believe his brother is also at Indiana, so there's a similar situation. Iamaliava, same thing. His brother is at UCLA, so they're back home at California for Iamaliava. So I think there's something to be said about that. But I think Mendoza with Indiana, I mean, obviously they had a storybook season last year, best football season ever at IU, and I think, I just think that the system there, I think he's poised to do pretty well. I mean, Curtis Rourke was one of the best, most efficient quarterbacks in the Big Ten last year. And I think Mendoza is more skilled, more athletic, a little bit better arm talent. So I'm going with Fernando Mendoza at number 4 for me.
Love that pick. So with my 3rd pick, we're on 3, right?
On number 3, correct.
Okay. So coming in at number 3, this is where I had a guy at number 2, was doing some more research, watching some more film, and I flipped him. And so we're going to head out to Champaign, Illinois. And we're going to be talking about Luke Altmaier.
Wow.
Mr. Altmaier, heck of a quarterback. In 13 games last year, 60%. He finished 8th in the Big Ten in passing yards with 2,700. But 22 touchdowns to 6 interceptions, really efficient. Now, my question comes into now. I think he's an elite quarterback in the Big Ten, but the reason I have him at 3 versus 2 is they're losing a little bit. Losing a little bit of production. Their top leading receivers are gone. They bring in a West Virginia transfer, and I believe his name is Hudson Clement. He was their top receiver at West Virginia. So they're going to be counting on other guys to kind of pick up the slack for Pat Bryant and Zachary Franklin, who got drafted this past season. But I think Luke Altmaier is a guy that you're going to sleep on him, right? He's going to beat you with his arm, but he'll also beat you with his legs. And another reason why I had him at 3 versus 2 was the fumbles. 11 fumbles on the season. Now they didn't, it wasn't interceptions, but 11 fumbles. You got to take care of that football. So I got Luke Altmaier at my 3, just partly because of losing the production. Not sure what it's going to look like. I still think Illinois is a team, though, that they can make a run, have somewhat of an Indiana type story last year.
It's so funny that you said you had him in a spot and then you moved him and you weren't quite sure. And
like 2 days went by and I'm like, man, I got to move him. I think I
had him at 3 and I moved him out of my top 5 because same thing you just said. I was like, I don't know. I don't think Illinois is going to do it again. I just don't think they're going to do it again. I may be wrong. The transfers you mentioned might be just fine, but I think they had some. I think they had some. And I don't mean to bash Illinois, but I think they had some above Illinois talent in those receivers you mentioned last year, and I think he's bound to take a step back. I still think he's a really good player. He's a gamer. He plays injured. He's scrappy. He'll run the ball. He'll get the tough yards. I actually love Luke Altmaier as a player. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
Like I even said last year, like I saw a little bit of JJ McCarthy in him at times, just the way he wants to go fight for that first down, the way he'll throw on weird arm angles. I like him. But I did bump him out of my top 5. I have at my number 3, Detroit's own Dante Moore out at Oregon. Now, Dante Moore started out at UCLA and played a lot of ball as a true freshman and had a lot of bumps in the road under Chip Kelly, and Chip Kelly's no longer there for some of those reasons. Then last year, he sat behind Dylan Gabriel. He wasn't going to play much behind a guy like that who's one of the winningest quarterbacks in college football history. He's been playing for 50 years, it seems like. But now it's Dante Moore's turn, and the Ducks are freaking loaded. Dan Lanning knows how to get the best out of his QBs. He has a system that works. I think Dante Moore, only 1,600 yards last year, only 11 touchdowns and 9 picks, but I think those numbers are going to double and maybe beyond double. I think he'll throw for close to 30 touchdowns. I think he's going to eclipse 3,000 yards. We'll see if he can take care of the ball because he's going to be playing against some really good teams. But I think Dante Moore has a lot of talent, and I think he's going to succeed in that system under Dan Lanning with all the weapons at Oregon. I have Dante Moore at number 3.
I like that. I like that pick. I debated on Dante for quite some time there. I do like that pick though. I think it's a safe pick. I think with Oregon, you got a team that ran by Dan Lanning. They're going to be great on defense. They're going to have skilled players around the quarterback. But with the loss of Evan Stewart, I think his name is the receiver. I think that's tough. We'll see how that goes. They do have a beast tight end in Sadiq, number 18, taking over for Terrence Ferguson. So that'll help a lot too. I like that pick a lot. Looking at number 2 for me. We on 2, right?
Number 2, getting up towards the top.
Here we go. All right. We've heard of him before. He's done some traveling as well. For this pick, I'm going to go Fernando Mendoza.
You have Mendoza at 2. I like this. I do.
And here's why. The supporting cast Mendoza has had at Cal, it's second tier to what he's going to be walking into here in Indiana. He's a baller, 3,000 yards, finished 6th in the ACC, 16 touchdowns, right? Not a lot, but only 6 interceptions. So he's smart with the ball. He picks and chooses where he wants to put it. But he's also a runner. He's athletic, man. He 334 yards on the ground. And the system he's walking into in Indiana, like we were talking about earlier about Curtis Rourke. And let's not forget, Curtis Rourke played like half the season on one leg and making it look like, hey, if you got a guy that knows what's going on inside his head and he knows what the play is, like he can go get it done. So I think Fernando Mendoza matched up with Elijah Surratt, receiver, Omar Cooper, who's returning. Their running back, Roman Hemby from Maryland, I believe. He's a
nice transfer. Yes.
let's not forget they got 3 linemen as well. Fernando Mendoza was sacked 40 times at Cal. Led the list here. So he's going to be going from fighting for his life to having a little bit of time. So I like this pick here. I think he's got an opportunity to put Indiana right back to where they were. They were a top 6 defense last year, and they're returning a lot of those guys as well. That with a quarterback like Mendoza, who I think is a step above Curtis Rourke, I think you could see Indiana easily competing again. And they're going to play a little bit harder teams this year, but I think they got a roster built for it.
I think we'd be remiss because I went through the whole thing. I had Mendoza at 4 and went the whole time talking without even saying Kurt Cignetti's name, and I think we need to because he's famous for just making it simple. Take what the team defense gives you. Make it easy on your quarterbacks. Make it easy on your receivers. Make it easy on all your skill guys, and that's why he had the success that he did at James Madison. He comes to Indiana, it translates right away. Curtis Rourke looks like he gets a shot at the NFL because of the kind of season he had under Cignetti. So I'm with you. I had Mendoza a little bit lower, but putting him inside the top 4, top 3, top 2, I think is very, very appropriate. I think he's going to be very good for Indiana. We actually did a flip flop for 2 and 4, I believe. I have Nico Iamaleava at number 2 for me.
Okay.
I think he's uber talented. I'm with you. UCLA, they're not trotting a dozen pro receivers out there. I get it, but I think another season, he's a little bit bigger, a little smarter. Again, put the dad stuff aside and how he left Tennessee and the NIL and all. Put that all aside. This is a big, talented kid, 6'6", 215 plus athlete. He can go get 20, 30 yards on the scramble if you let him. 2,600 yards last year, 19 touchdowns. And I think the most impressive, only 5 picks as a freshman in the SEC. He takes care of the ball. He makes good decisions. I think he's going to have a really good season. I think he's going to put himself in the position to be one of the top quarterbacks drafted the following year. And I think it starts this year. So I have Iamaleava at 2. Again, we kind of talked about this. Even I think we're both going to have the same number 1, it sounds like. I don't think there's anybody out there who would pound the table and say, I will never take Nico over Drew Aller. I think some people might. And I think that speaks to what this might end up looking like. I think we probably both have Drew Aller at number 1, but I will let you explain why that is.
Yes, you are correct. I do have Drew Aller at 1. Very, very polarizing pick. You listen, you talk with other people, and you hear these other podcasts, and that's the same thing they're going to say. I mean, it's either you hate him or you love him. And I mean, if you say he's not a good quarterback, you'd be remiss, and I think you'd be wrong. He is a good quarterback. I think he's just missing that next step, that elite level. And I kind of relate it, and this is just a total, just a personal opinion of mine. This is 3 years ago. I'm watching the Dallas Cowboys play the Denver Broncos. I was rooting for the Cowboys that day, and Dak Prescott goes out and has one of the worst games ever. They get down by 30 in the first half, and I look, and they pan to Dak Prescott, and his eyes are kind of just like this, just I don't know what's going on, versus having those scary eyes to he is focused on something, but I don't know what it is. I want to see that out of Drew Aller. I want to see a possessed man. Now he's not going to have to do a whole lot. He's got 2 1K rushers coming back, 1,000-yard rushers coming back, and Katron Allen and Nicholas Singleton. So it's going to be somewhat like last year, right? Hey, make the throws when we need you to. Be a leader, but hand that ball off to these 2 All-Americans and let them go. And then you look outside at the weapons that he has. They lose Tyler Warren, who was 1,200 yards of production. They lose Harrison Wallace, who went to Ole Miss, but they bring in Trevor Pena from Syracuse. I think it was 900 yards, 7 or 11 touchdowns on the year. Devontae Ross from Troy, who was a 1,000-yard receiver. I think 11 touchdowns for him. And they also bring in a 6'4", I believe, tight end from Tennessee, who looks good. And I could be wrong on that. I had to check on that one. But I mean, they're replacing guys, and they're bringing in guys that don't let me forget Kyron Hudson from USC, who was their 3rd or 4th receiver, but it's just a consistent guy that has done it at a high level. So I think Drew Aller could solidify himself as the number 1 at the end of the season. Because when you look, and I went through each of these quarterbacks, I went through the 3 toughest defenses they played. And when you look at Drew Aller versus the 3 toughest defenses he played were Ohio State, who finished at number 1, Oregon, who finished at 16, and Notre Dame, who finished at 5. grades of PFF 62, 68, and 42 versus those teams, versus Ohio State 140 yards, versus Oregon 226 yards, but 2 interceptions. And then in that playoff versus Notre Dame, 135 yards. And that's when you really could see those eyes like, I'm not like, I want to be in control, but I'm not. And I think if he takes that next step, makes those deep throws, finishes games, beats the big team. Yes, it's James Franklin. He gets the rap. It's like, hey, when's he going to beat the big team? But it's the players that play, man. So when those players step up, Drew Aller, and take lead, I think that's when we're going to be able to say at the end of the year, okay, Drew Aller was the number 1 quarterback in the Big Ten. But until then, you could throw out a name and I'd say, oh, well, you're selling me more and more. So that's my number 1, and that's my reason why.
I think you nailed it. I think it's been the same story on Drew Aller since he arrived at Penn State. This 5-star kid, big arm, big body, 6'5", 235. He's a good athlete. I mean, he's not a runner per se, but he can go pick up the first down, move the chains. He's going to be a little bit of a threat here and there. I mean, when you got Katron Allen, you've got Nicholas Singleton back there, and you're running zone reads, there's going to be some backdoor opportunities for Drew Aller, and he can go get you some yardage with his legs. The arm talent is off the charts. I mean, he can huck the ball 70 plus, no problem. I think they got a little faster in their receiving core, probably a little less proven, and lost some real production, as you mentioned. But the 3 transfer guys can all run, and I think that's going to help maybe with the deep ball a little bit there. And look, teams cannot go light box against this Penn State team, not with those 2 running backs. So there's going to be some one-on-one deep ball opportunities for Drew Aller to show off that big arm. But we've just been waiting, like. It just feels like it hasn't quite clicked. Like it feels like wherever his ceiling's at, he's not there yet. And this is the last go round. Like he's got to find it this year if Penn State wants to live up to that top 3 or 4 ranking, the potential to maybe play for a national title, win the Big Ten, get over the Ohio State hump, which has never really happened with James Franklin. I mean, there's a lot of things riding on the arm of Drew Aller, and I think. His production was very solid last year. 3,300 yards, 24 touchdowns, only 8 picks. He's not turnover prone necessarily. You clean that up a little bit though, and you make a little bit better decision, and you're talking probably the runaway best quarterback in the Big Ten. But I could very easily see him not being as good this year because he's just kind of been that way. He had more touchdown passes 2 seasons ago than last year. Like that shouldn't happen, in my opinion.
Yeah. And less games too.
You should be getting better and better each year. So I'm with you. I think he's the best quarterback in the Big Ten, but it's like I said at the top of the show, there is nobody on this list where I'm like, that guy's the absolute, he's just a beast. There's not really a guy on this list that if I'm a defensive coordinator for the other team that I'm scared of. And I don't mean that like to disparage these guys. I just think it's going to be really interesting to see who does take a next step. Does Drew Aller really reach his potential or his college potential? He's going to go on to play in the NFL. And some of these other guys who are in new spots, you talk about Nico, you talk about Fernando Mendoza, you talk about Damon Williams spot by getting his chance. Some of these guys that we had up towards the top, Julian Sayin at Ohio State, they are as loaded as any team in the country when it comes to people to throw it to. But what's it look like coming from Sayin? I think we'd be remiss if we didn't mention Bryce Underwood at Michigan, who was the superstar freshman that everybody's expecting big things. And I think, if I'm looking at I think he's the only true freshman expected to start in the Big Ten this year. I could be wrong on that.
I'm not sure what they're doing in Maryland, but Malik Washington might make a push.
Justin Martin and Malik Washington, but I actually have them down towards the bottom because we don't even know who it's going to be. Yeah. Young guys, unproven guys.
Now let me ask you this, and I'll finish your thought, but do you have a watch out for in this list? You haven't mentioned anyone that's like, hey, I got one in my mind, but I'll let you go first.
I think I'm cheating a little bit because he didn't make my top 5, but I think it's Damon Williams. I think he could be phenomenal, and I have him at 6 or 7. Actually, I think I took Luke Altmaier. He's not even on my list, but I had him like at 3 or 4, and then I bumped him down. So I might have him at 6 or 7, and then Damon Williams would be in the other spot. So I'll say him. I think, like I said, I feel like that's cheating a little bit because you had him at 4, I think, or 5, wherever he was, and he could end up being one of the best in the whole conference. But I think Damon Williams is really, really good, really athletic, really talented. I think he could open some eyes.
Yeah, I agree. But for mine, this is out of left field too. Now, Brandon, this is coming from left field here. This is purely because he's not talked about, because really he's on no one's radar, and this team sometimes doesn't even need a quarterback. Let's be honest. I'm going Mark Gronkowski out of Iowa.
Wow.
Yeah. And I say that because I don't think Iowa's had a quarterback that has had this guy's ability in a long time. Can run, can throw. I mean, his has 10,000 plus yards in his career. He's a guy that's seen some football now, and when you get to Iowa, if you just do what the coaches say, if you run that ball hard and you play good defense, you find yourself into some good big games at the end of the year. And now, if you add a quarterback that can add a little flair to Iowa, I mean, watch out now, watch out. So that's gonna be my sleeper, Mark Gronkowski, Iowa. And then that's my sleeper, man. And hearing a lot of USC too that I forget the freshman's name, but he might make a push late season against Jaden Mayaba if he isn't taking control of that quarterback room.
Gronowski is interesting. Played at South Dakota State. So, but that's as high level as that D2 that you get. And played a ton of football. I mean, a ton of football. He's been playing all 4 years, like you said, a dual threat guy. And yeah, you don't even really need a quarterback at Iowa sometimes. But if you could get something out of that position, that just makes Iowa that much better. All right, we're going to put a bow on it by saying these last three things. So we had Drew Aller at number 1, both of us. This is where I think it's kind of interesting. Neither one of us had Julian Sayin on our top 5. Ohio State's projected starting quarterback. However, it's being reported that he is in a little bit of a battle. He is the second highest rated quarterback according to FanDuel for Heisman odds at number 9. Plus 2,000, number 9, Julian Sayin to win the Heisman. Drew Aller is just a notch ahead of him at number 8 at plus 1,800. And Dante Moore is at number 11 at plus 2,500. So there's your 3 most likely to win the Heisman quarterbacks in the Big Ten. Drew Aller at number 8 at plus 1,800. Julian Sayin at Ohio State at number 9 plus 2,000. And Dante Moore at number 11 at plus 2,500. Arch Manning, by the way, is the odds-on favorite to win the Heisman according to FanDuel. So I think that's interesting. We both had Aller at number 1. Neither one of us had say, dude, is that what it is?
So here's my thing. So Sayin, 5-star talent, goes to Bama with Saban. Saban retires. He hits the portal. He finds his way to Columbus. He could be the best quarterback in the country. Possibly. We don't know. We haven't seen much of him play. But also, I mean, a year ago, were you going to say that Will Howard was going to have 4,000 passing yards? Fair. So yes, you have to have a certain sense of skill and durability to play quarterback in the Big Ten. But with the system that Sayin finds himself in, I mean, throw it to number 4, man, and you're going to find yourself in a lot of good situations. And that's kind of the part of the reason I didn't include him. One, I mean, Demont Williams only started 2 games, but there's a lot of stats on the paper. You can see what he's done. Julian Sayin's more of a projection. Yeah, I think he probably will finish top 3 in the Big Ten as far as yards and touchdowns. But as far as importance to the team, I'm going to roll with these guys and the impact that they're going to have with their team is a little bit more important than Julian Sayin for Ohio State. Now, that's not me saying he's not important. I'm just saying that if you take a guy that's maybe a 4-star, but a baller, he could probably do what Julian Sayin's doing, for Ohio State just because of the athletes that they have.
Weapons. Just ridiculous weapons. I'm with you. Look, Julian Sayin's got 5 more completions than me. Okay? I mean, like that's just calling a spade. He hasn't played a lot. We don't have many guys on that list that haven't played. There's some talented dudes down this list. I like to see it first, and so that's why I'm hesitant. But you're absolutely right. I mean, I think Julian Sayin could be very good. He might end up putting up the best numbers out of all quarterbacks. I mean, that wouldn't surprise me at all. That's not a stretch at all. But he hasn't done it yet, and we need to see it. The durability, the availability. How does he pick everything up? But you can do a lot worse than just hucking it down to number 4. I mean, you're gonna do pretty well just by doing that. Several times a game. So there you have it. Our top 5 quarterbacks in the Big Ten. Some Heisman odds here in early August from FanDuel. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening to our inaugural episode of Believe in the Big Ten. He's Grant Perry. I'm Brandon Brown. We'll be back next week.